What if I told you that everything you see, hear, and experience is controlled by something you can never actually see? Waves are not just ocean movements crashing against the shore. They are the hidden language of the universe itself. From the sound of your voice traveling through the air to the light entering your eyes right now, waves are constantly shaping your reality in ways most people never stop to consider. Most people imagine waves as simple up and down motions, like drawings in a textbook or ripples in water, but that idea is only a tiny fragment of the truth. In reality, waves are energy moving through space, transferring information without carrying matter along with them. That means when you hear a sound, nothing physical is traveling from the source to your ear, only energy passing through invisible. This creates a strange contradiction. You live in a world built on waves, yet you rarely notice them. You rely on them to communicate, to see, and even to understand your surroundings, but they remain completely invisible to you. And the deeper you look, the more unsettling it becomes, because everything you perceive depends entirely on how these waves behave. So the real question is not what waves are, but how they control what you experience. And to understand that, you need to uncover the three hidden properties that define every single wave in existence. But here is where things become even more fascinating. The same invisible principles that allow you to hear music also determine the colors you see and the signals your phone receives every second. One's his outcomes, and yet most people go their entire lives without realizing that all of it can be broken down into a few simple patterns. Patterns that, once understood, completely change the way you interpret reality. Everything is connected through waves, shaping reality beyond what you expect. If waves are the hidden language of reality, then everything you experience depends on just three simple properties. At first glance, they seem basic, almost too simple to matter. But once you understand them, you begin to see how dramatically they shape your perception of the world around you. The first is amplitude. Most people assume a bigger wave simply means a larger motion, like a taller ocean wave rising higher above the surface. And while that is partly true, the real impact of amplitude is what it does to intensity. In sound, higher amplitude means louder volume. In light, it means greater brightness. So the difference between a whisper and a shout is not a different kind of wave, but the same wave with more energy pushing through it. And next comes frequency. And this is where things start to feel less intuitive. Frequency measures how often a wave repeats itself over time. A higher frequency means more cycles happening in a shorter moment. In sound, this translates to pitch. A low frequency gives you deep, rumbling tones, while a high frequency produces sharp, piercing notes. It is not about size anymore, but about speed and repetition, turning invisible patterns into completely different experiences. Then there is wavelength, which is closely tied to frequency, but tells a different part of the story. Wavelength measures the distance between one peak of a wave and the next. Longer wavelengths stretch out slowly, while shorter wavelengths compress tightly together. And here comes the contrast that surprises most people. As frequency increases, wavelength decreases. Faster repetition means less space between each cycle, creating a balance that defines how waves behave. When you connect these three properties, something powerful emerges. Amplitude controls how strong a wave feels, frequency controls how fast it repeats, and wavelength controls how far each cycle extends. Three simple ideas, yet they combine to create every sound you hear and every color you see. Go. But here is the deeper realization. You are not just observing waves, you are interpreting them. Your brain translates these patterns into meaning, turning invisible motion into music, light, and information. And once you understand that, you start to see that reality is not fixed at all. It is built from patterns that can change, shift, and transform depending on how these properties interact. And that leads to an even bigger question, because if these three properties define every wave, then they also decide everything you expect. By now, it might seem like waves are just a scientific concept, something confined to textbooks and diagrams. But in reality, they are the reason your entire world looks, sounds, and feels the way it does. Every sensation you experience is shaped by how waves behave before they ever reach you. Take sound, for example. The difference between your favorite song and random noise is not the source, but the pattern of waves reaching your ears. Small changes in frequency turn calm melodies into sharp, high-pitched tones. Changes in amplitude shift quiet sounds into powerful vibrations you can feel. The same system, completely different experiences, all controlled by invisible variations. Now, consider light. What you call color is nothing more than your brain interpreting different wavelengths. Red, blue, green, they are not properties of objects themselves, but the result of how light waves interact with your eyes. Change the wavelength, and the color changes. The object stays the same, yet your perception transforms entirely. This creates a powerful contrast between reality and experience, because what you see is not the world itself, but a translation of waves. And it goes even further. The signals your phone receives, the images sent across space, even the data traveling through the internet, all rely on waves carrying information. Slight adjustments in frequency or amplitude allow complex messages to move instantly across vast distances. Without waves, communication as you know it would simply not exist. This leads to a deeper realization. You are not directly experiencing it. Instead, you are experiencing a version of it shaped entirely by how waves interact with your senses. Change the waves, and you change the experience. It is a system that is both incredibly precise and surprisingly fragile. So, while waves may seem invisible and abstract, they are constantly defining your world in ways you cannot escape. And once you begin to see that everything depends on these patterns, it becomes impossible to ignore how much of reality is hidden beneath the surface, waiting to be understood.